Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're all doing very well this morning. Your latest Manchester United news on the United Stand News Show, live every morning at 10 o'clock. Hope you're doing well, you legends. It's a good time to be a Manchester United fan. I think so much positivity around us at the moment. Obviously still a lot of work to do, and I think that's where I want to start here, because some fantastic quotes from Erik ten Hag last night. I don't know whether you saw them after the game. I went to bed, in a very good mood and was very happy with Manchester United. Very excited about those games against Man City and Arsenal. I know we've got Everton and Charlton first. But the thing I love about Ten Hag, and I said this when we were trying to get him, nearly a year ago, is that it is like he's fallen off a Christmas tree to some people. It's like they've got no concept of what he was. But this is what he said after the game yesterday. We scored great goals and I should have scored more. We could have conceded 2 great saves from De Gea. I'm not happy with that. It's something we have to avoid. I'm happy with the 3-0. That's obvious and quite clear. But today was not our best game. We didn't play smart as a team, and sometimes we were lucky. And I think, you know what? I don't want to say anything about Mourinho or Solskjaer here, but they are our last 2 coaches. Solskjaer would be beaming like a cat. He'd be smiling so happy with that result. And Mourinho would be doing the same, because he'd be like, it's all about winning. And I think with Ten Hag, we finally got a manager who, over the years I've been called negative, because we'll win a game and I'll go, I wasn't happy with this, I wasn't happy with that, stop being so negative. And it's so refreshing to actually have a manager with the mindset I grew up with. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't think every result that we won was good. There was always room for improvement. And I think our fans have got so lost over the last decade that, you win a game and everyone's world class. You lose a game and everyone's total shit. And the reality is, if you want to be successful, then a lot of wins you will find problems with. And sometimes you'll draw and you'll go, that was a good performance. And I think that Ten Hag epitomises how I feel about football, but I think how we should be feeling about football anyway. Yes, it's a good win, but let's not get carried away with ourselves. There were a lot of changes. There was a lot of things we didn't do well. And I think that when that's coming from the manager, it shuts down and shuts up these, people who just go, oh, stop being so negative. Well, the manager's just said it. The manager's just said it because he's got the high standards that some of us have. So brilliant that he's demanding more. He's cooking, says Adam. He is. Look, that's a little bit about what I want to talk about. What I really want to talk about is a couple of bits of transfer stories. Manchester United are about to sign a new goalkeeper. This has come in from Mike McGrath, who, correct me, who he writes for. I think it might be the Telegraph. I know it was. I think so. Anyway, but Alex Crook in TalkSport has confirmed it as well. Manchester United are looking to bring in Jack Butland from Crystal Palace until the end of the season as a backup goalkeeper. Now, obviously, Dubravka has gone back to Newcastle, yeah, Butland is not the first choice goalkeeper for Crystal Palace, so he would come to Manchester United. We suspect it's going to be a loan deal. There is talk it might be a permanent deal. It's interesting because, look, we do need to bring another goalkeeper in, and Heaton is really a good lad around the team, but clearly isn't considered to be of the standard required if anything happens to David De Gea. I think it's a clever, intelligent move from Manchester United to bring in a goalkeeper. We do need one. Is Jack Butland very good? Clearly he's not. There was a lot of promise around him a few years ago when he was at Stoke, but he's, it's just another goalkeeper to bring in, really. It's nothing to massively get excited about. United played well. I think we will finish third, but we will win the league, make no mistakes. And Felix is coming to us, says Amy Assey. Well, it looks like you're going to lose Mudryk to Chelsea now, isn't it? And Erik ten Hag screams of living through the Fergie year standard, says Mark. And this for me is so important, because I think, we spend a lot of time listening to ex-players who played under Sir Alex Ferguson and seem to forget what it was all about. Some of their recommendations and ideas, we wouldn't be winning a title for 40 years. Do like Bruno, but a more cultured number 10 is a must signing to really get this team firing. Makes Bruno improve. Olmo at Leipzig would be a great signing, says Nick. Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of signings we can make. There's a lot of improvement we can make. And when you get a manager coming out after the three wins we've had in the Premier League demanding more, you know that he's not just come out after that Bournemouth game last night. He's publicly come out and said, good result, but a lot of things I'm not happy with. Like, he doesn't just say that and then, pop into McDonald's on the way home for a little bit of a, midnight snack and then, put EastEnders on and catch up. He will be thinking, I wasn't happy with things about that. and this is what I want. He will already know what he wants to do with that team, basically. He will already know if he wants another centre-back, if he wants another midfielder, if he wants another number 10, if he wants another striker. He'll already know. But so many of those problems won't get solved until we know who the new buyer is, and that won't be known, and hopefully that will impact on the summer. Talking right here, right now, Zane, keen to put a 500 bet onto Mark's charity if Arsenal win the title or not. Let's get it done, says Mark Perales. There you go. Bit of a shout out there. But look, I think that Eric Ten, look, this is A-star information. This is well known around Manchester United, so I don't feel like I'm breaking anything here. But I think Eric Ten Hag hinted at it after the game yesterday about, areas of improvement. He also said with Donny van der Beek, it's not looking good. I don't really get. I'm not taking a pop at the people who share the picture of Donny van der Beek's leg because it's out there, but there is a source house of sort of. There is a mindset in the human being, isn't there, that likes to look at that things are grotesque. I suppose it's the people who like these horror films. I don't need to see what happened to Donny van der Beek's leg all over social media. Like, I saw it in real time. It doesn't look good. He's basically unfortunate. I mean, I don't know why people wanted a red card for that, by the way. I mean, these things do happen. It was wet, slippy. The player wins the ball, and then the momentum slides through and into Donny van der Beek's standing right leg and hyperextends his knee. That doesn't look good, like Ten Hag says, and that probably deprives us as another player for probably till the end of the season. I mean, let's be honest, the end of the season's at the end of May. 4 months. If he's lucky, it might be less than that. Zayn Miasi is now wanting to bet £2,000 that they're going to win the title, and depends what the charity is. It's all going off in the chat. Just an unlucky tackle and a really unlucky scenario for Ten Hag and for mainly Donny van der Beek. But it makes us very, very short. And I was listening to Ten Hag after the game last night, and he was demanding more. But I think there was a very clear message to the board that might not have been clear to the fans. Because for me, and I know he wants Joao Felix anyway, but he was making it very clear that they need to get him that player. Like, he went through the team and he spoke about the issues. And, Donny's gone now. Bruno, we have no backup for. Rashford we're very reliant on. Martial went down the tunnel. It's a knock. I mean, I think he'll be okay, but you never know with Martial. A knock can be see you in February. Anthony has another knock that kept him even off the bench. We need Joao Felix. We don't need Memphis Depay. We don't need Olivier Giroud. We don't need Thuram. We need Joao Felix, because what we need is what I call a two-for 1. That's what we need. We need a player that can do more than one position. Lots of good talk about the summer. Centre-backs, midfielders, strikers. I completely agree. But we don't. I said this last night in the watch-along, and I think Ten Hag is hinting at it massively. He doesn't need to solve his striker problem in January. What he needs, and I think this is the mindset to have, what he needs to do is get to May and stay competitive. And then in the summer, get the striker. He needs a two for 1, because he needs a player to come in that can solve more than one problem for him. So he needs somebody that can play up front, off the wing. And the great thing about Joao Felix is he's not a two-for, he's a three-for. He can play up front, off the wing, and at number 10. It's an absolute no-brainer because he's available on loan. We knew he was available in January. Atletico Madrid were talking about 100 million. They're now talking about a loan. United are moaning about the loan fee. They're very lucky he's available for loan, and nobody's saying this. Atletico Madrid want to sell him, but there is no market to sell him for £100 million. So they've now been forced to loan him. United can't be too precious about this. He is absolutely perfect for what we need. With that Donny van der Beek injury, the uncertainty around Anthony, Sancho and Martial, we are ridiculously reliant on Bruno and Rashford. And that's not enough. Joao Felix comes in, and you can suddenly go into that Everton game, if he was here, and say, you could rest Bruno and play Joao Felix at 10. You could rest Rashford and play Joao Felix off the left. If Martial's got a knock, we could play Joao Felix at 9. It gives us lots of options, and I think it's well known. It's well known around the club and around the media that Ten Hag's number one priority is Joao Felix, with Gakpo going to Liverpool. 100%, he is the player that he wants. But he can only drop so many hints, and we can only speak about it, as much as we do. Ivan Whelan says, any news on Felix? Not convinced on him, to be honest, says Ivan. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Joao Felix is going to solve all Manchester United's problems. And Erik Ten Hag was asked about, titles and stuff like that. I'm not going to sit here and say that Erik Ten Hag is that Joao Felix is going to solve every problem. He could come to the club and be a flop, but only so much as if I said to you who's going to be the bigger flop, Joao Felix, Memphis Depay, or Thuram, I'd take Joao Felix every time over the other two, because Memphis has already flopped in the Premier League, and Thuram, there's not a massive queue for him, is there? Joao Felix is the player to get. Of course, there's always a risk, but it's a minimal risk as well, because it'd be a loan deal. Leslie Lai says, Ten Hag drops more hints to the media than a woman to a man. Respect. And Jonathan says, look at me, I'm a member. Thuram would be another Martial, says Wood. People complaining about the 20 million loan fee when we paid more for worse players on permanent deals previously, says Abs. And it wouldn't be 20 million. It wouldn't be 20 million. But you know what? Erik Ten Hag, he was asked about whether Manchester United are in a title race. I'm just going to go through some quotes about him as well. If you're tuning in a little bit late, the big story this morning, and it's only a big story because it's a goalkeeper and he's probably 6'5", is United are looking to bring Jack Butland in from Crystal Palace as the reserve goalkeeper between now and the end of the season. Apparently, they thought about bringing Dean Henderson back, and I think they thought about it for about a second because it would be a terrible idea. We don't want Dean Henderson back. He'd come back and go, I want to be number one. I want to be number one. And we'd be like, yeah, did you watch the game last night, mate? He was absolutely world class, David De Gea. You're not number one. You're sitting on the bench. Oh, I don't want to sit on the bench. So absolutely not. Dean Henderson's a good goalkeeper. He's not what you want at the club at the moment. You want somebody, as I said on the watch along last night, I was speaking to Ben Foster about this a few weeks ago, and he said, look, in the goalkeeping world, you need a number one who knows they're number one, and you need a number two who's happy to be number two. That's what every club wants. You don't want two number ones fighting with each other. It just doesn't work. It's not good for the goalkeepers. As a goalkeeper, you spend a lot of time, working on concentration. The ball could be at the other end for 80 minutes and they get one chance, you've got to save it. It's all about, as much as it's about physique, it's also about mentality. And the last thing you want is to have a manager that might drop you for one mistake or might use the other goalkeeper. You need to know you're number one, and you need to know that the other goalkeeper's number two. And that's what United need to have. But look, Ten Hag spoke about a lot of things after the game. His quote around Donny van der Beek, because a lot of people are asking about that, not looking for Van der Beek. We have to wait for 24 hours. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. In fact, talking about De Gea, he spoke after the game and said, now everyone's really focused. Today we changed the centre-backs and they played well. The whole team is involved, wants to win, go the same way and play the same way. Good quotes from him. But Luke Shaw was quite... I like Luke Shaw. I think he's always realistic. And just on De Gea, he said, really good result. At times we got sloppy and conceded chances, but De Gea was amazing and made a number of good saves. It kept us ahead in the game and the clean sheet. But that was something that Ten Hag obviously wasn't happy about. He said we've conceded too many chances, too many great saves from De Gea. I'm not happy about that. But he was asked about whether we could win the title, Erik Ten Hag, which I thought was just typical media bullshit. But he basically said this. Where is it? I'm trying to see it now. There was a comment about whether we can win the title. I'll find it for you in a minute. There's just a few more quotes here about the actual game. He said, we have to play clever and keep compact, let them run and the spaces will come, because as they take risks, you'll have counter chances. Not entertaining, but we made a good goal from a set play, and then straight after half time a really good counter. It was a good goal. That is the next step we have to make. We are still in the process and we controlled the game in the first half, but we didn't play that well. You saw the reaction of the opponent as they believed in it. They could have made it 2-1 and then they're back in the game. We only stay strong if we do our jobs and we give 100% in every situation. I had the feeling in the second half of the game, for some, was easy going. The game is never easy going. That was the thing that I was looking for. He did talk about the title, but when the manager is basically coming out after a 3-0 win and saying, I felt like some players in the second half took their foot off the pedal and you can't do that. That's absolutely fantastic, absolutely incredible from the manager, and I think it's a real big, a real big step in the right direction. He did say about Martial it was a knock, but I think he will be fine. He spoke about the competition at right back as well. I want to talk about that in a minute. And this is what he said about the title. He said, we have to understand that we have to give every game 100% energy, 100% focus, and 100% play as a team. And if you keep that philosophy, it is possible to win the league, but you have to go from game to game. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. It is only January and we're not even halfway through the season. The next game is Everton. We have to focus on that. It's coming quick. Enjoy 24 hours and then move on. It's a big step to consider Manchester United as title challengers. We have to go from game to game and get the progress. The belief is growing. That's a good sign, and it is good to have that feeling. I mean, I just can't argue with Ten Hag again there. I mean, look, he's asked about the title. He tells you how you win a title. It's 100% focus, concentration every game, and that's how you do it. But it's ridiculously early to talk about that. Do I think Man United are in a title race? I don't think we're even going to get top 4 at the moment. So I'm going to tell you no. But the only reason I don't think we're going to get top 4 is because, as Ten Hag said, we're not halfway through the season. We have got vulnerabilities and we haven't got the squad. I just don't think we have. I think it's going to come down to luck if we get top 4 based on, do we have less injuries than everybody else? I mean, look, we're talking about top 4. Newcastle, fantastic. Newcastle were fantastic. I had that game on last night when the United match was on, and Newcastle were fantastic away from home against the best team in the league. They're not in Europe. They're going to have a week off every week. So, I mean, unless Newcastle are going to have and they've had a lot of injuries. I mean, Isaac's still not back yet. St. Maximum's, like bloody Martial, he's always injured. And they could spend money in January. I mean, Newcastle would be stupid not to spend money in January. They are way ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule. And they've got a massive chance of getting top 4. Arsenal and Man City clearly are going to get top 4. I think that's absolutely nailed on. And then you've got... sorry, I just got better get jewelry. Hello? Hi, you right? We will do. I'm just on a Zoom call at the moment. I thought it was going to be a parcel.
Yeah.
What's the story very quickly? How does it work?
Come round every 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Cost you £20. Clean the outside windows and sills.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So when will that start?
Start today if you want them doing.
Yeah, okay, that's absolutely fine.
Is that which guy? Has she moved out?
Yeah.
I didn't realise she was selling.
Oh, right.
I never seen a board up or nothing.
No, it's probably just done online.
Yeah, can't. That's a nice, isn't it? Okay, yeah. I didn't realise it. No. Okay. She usually opens that gate up for us, so we can get to that one if you want to open that one.
I think it's already open.
It's already open.
Yeah.
So good out, okay?
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers.
Sorry about that. I thought it was going to be a parcel. It was actually the window cleaner. So we're just doing a Zoom call, yes. Hello, everybody. Anyway, we're back. So I'm talking about Erik Ten Hag here. So that's thrown me a little bit. But yeah, it is a big step to consider Manchester United as title challengers, as we know. And I don't feel that... I just don't feel that that sort of conversation is useful to Manchester United at the moment. But... I like the fact that Erik Ten Hag wants to actually talk about it, and I don't. I think the race for top 4 is just really, really difficult to pinpoint at the moment, and I think Newcastle are in it. I think Arsenal and Man City are definitely in it, and I think Liverpool are in it as well. So I think it's really, really difficult to put us into that position at the moment, and I think Ten Hag is absolutely spot on the way he addresses these issues at United, because I think it's very easy everybody has it. You know, you go to a wedding, there's people who will sit there at the start of the night, you know, calm and relaxed and be like, I might dance at the end of the night. You get some people, they have a sniff of alcohol and they're up dancing on the dance floor of their own with their tie around their head, you know, dancing to ABBA, you know, and I think you get that in all walks of life. And, you know, we beat Bournemouth 3-0, we beat Forest 3-0, we beat Wolves 1-0, and suddenly we're going to win the league. And you can see that. I see it in the chat, I see it on social media. It makes me laugh, but I'm not going to dismiss it because it's just optimistic people. It's glass half full people. You get very negative people, and then you get people who are realistic. And for me, I absolutely am not going to get up on the dance floor, put my tie around my head and start dancing to ABBA because we beat Bournemouth 3-0. I'm going to wait and wait. And to be honest with you, could United get into a title race? Of course they could. Of course they could get into a title race. But I wouldn't believe that until 2 games to go and we're 3 points clear, because I just don't feel that. I don't feel that's what this season's all about. In fact, I don't want to talk about title races, and I'm sure Arsenal fans are the same, but they are in one, whether they like it or not. I just think that we've got to be more focused on the job that we're doing, and the job we're doing at the moment is very, very good. But as Mohammed says, wait till February. And Times End says we need to spend 100 million in January to be in a title race. I think that is really an intelligent way of looking at it, because ultimately, if we don't start to be realistic about where United are, we will start to over-expectate. And that's not even a word, but what I mean is I'm very protective of Ten Hag, and I don't want us to start... I don't want us to start putting unrealistic expectations on a manager that's doing so well too early. For me, this season is, if we can win a trophy in his very first season, taking over from the worst ever Premier League Manchester United side, then I would be very, very happy with that. If we can get Champions League football and stop somebody like Liverpool and Spurs and Chelsea getting Champions League football, and I think those are the things you need to focus on. At the moment, Arsenal are going to get Champions League football for the first time in about 6 years. Zayn will tell us that. Man City are going to get Champions League football, and then there's 2 spots up for grabs. So it could be Newcastle and Man United, which means Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs don't get Champions League football. Well, you're probably not surprised about Spurs, but Liverpool and Chelsea you're very surprised about. So what I'm trying to say is we've got to be very wary here that we don't over-egg the pudding and we don't over-expectate what our expectations are, because realistically, if we get top 4 and Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs don't, that's a big achievement for us. If they don't, if we do get top 4, it's a really big achievement. I mean, for me, I want top 4 and I want to win a trophy, and I think that's realistic. But so much of it will come down to what we do in January. And I don't know whether anybody heard what Ten Hag said on the competition for right back, but he said that, look, I like this problem. Wan-Bissaka has done very well in the last few games, both defensively and offensively. Good competition in the group, but there are a lot of games, so we need them. I think that the situation at right back, and some people might find this update quite frustrating, but as we know, we've had Fabrizio on the show this week. We've seen it from many good journalists that United want a right back in January. I said at the start of the week, I think this might have changed now, and I think that we are actually getting evidence that this has changed. Mark, if we beat City and Arsenal and don't lose any points to the top 6 teams, I'd well be happy to hunt for the top 4 and see where we are in April, says PJ. Heard anything on Brobby as an option? No, he's not an option. Nick, he's only just re-signed for Ajax in the summer. And Mark, if we beat City and Arsenal and don't lose any points to the top 6 teams, I'd well be happy to be in the hunt for top 4. Yeah, that was from PJ, wasn't it? But you know, and Nagayan says, what's happening with Elanga? I think we need to go. Lose v Everton and win v City, or the opposites is bad. I don't do those sort of things. Sorry, I don't do those sort of hypotheticals because they're irrelevant. I want to beat Everton and beat Man City. I'm not choosing either or. I'm making a prediction. In 2 weeks we are talking about the title. Screenshot this because I will be, says Charlie. Well, in 2 weeks' time, I mean, look, those games are massive, aren't they? Man City and Arsenal. I'm looking forward to those. But going back to the right back situation, I think this is something we expected to be talking a lot about in the January transfer window. The expectation was that we needed a right back and we needed a striker. I think the right back situation has changed. I find it. I've got to be honest. I find it slightly irritating, which is odd because I'm a big fan of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but I find the renaissance of Aaron Wan-Bissaka quite irritating. And I know I'm in the minority here. What's the update on Delo? Says CGA. He played last night, mate. I worry about some people. We need an update on Delo. He played last night. Do you watch the games? He came on for the last 20 minutes. But I do find the renaissance of Aaron Wan-Bissaka quite irritating because it's like, we've been preparing for bringing a right back in for 5 months. He's been nowhere near the team. Delo gets injured. He comes into the team and performs. And you just think, why were you not doing that in the summer? Why were you not doing that when we needed to rotate Delo in September and October? Why is it pure desperation on your part and the club's part that you actually start playing well? And it's just frustrating because the mindset has to change. And Ten Hag's mindset has to change because he has been 100% from day one, I want Wan-Bissaka out of the club. We hit January, we've probably got plans in place. He comes into the team, does fantastically well, and suddenly it's like, yeah, park those plans, I'm going to keep Wan-Bissaka now. Which Murta will be fucking ecstatic about because he didn't want to sell Wan-Bissaka anyway. But it just alters the plans, and ultimately, I know and you know that that's a problem we're going to have to solve in the summer now, and that problem in the summer takes up time. So in the summer we'll be selling Wan-Bissaka again and trying to bring a right back in again. Whereas if we did it in January, we don't have that problem to deal with in the summer. So it's ultimately a positive because you don't need to worry about that, but it's also just kicking a problem down the road. And the reason we're kicking the problem down the road is Delo, it's very much like Maguire and Varane. Delo is number one. Varane is number one. You can rotate every now and again, but when the big games come, it will be Delo and Varane. And Maguire and Wan-Bissaka's only hope really is they get more rotational games or Delo or Varane get injured so they get a chance. That's not a long-term plan for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. It's not. It's not a long-term plan for Manchester United, and it's not a long-term plan for him. He doesn't want to be sat on the bench for the next 2 years as Man United's backup right back, and Man United don't want to be paying 100 grand a week to a backup right back. So it's kicking a problem down the road, which actually is probably a good thing for us because Wan-Bissaka's playing well. But it won't solve the long-term problem, and we'll have to wait until the summer. I suppose the positive is if you wait till the summer, you can buy a better right back. I do worry about what Wan-Bissaka's value will be in the summer. If he went on loan to Wolves or Palace now and played first-team football for 5 months, I think we'd get 20 million for him. If he stays at United for 5 months and barely plays, I think we'll struggle to get 10 million for him. But you know, with new owners, they might not care. Hi, Mark. Happy New Year. Who do you realistically see as getting this window? Keep up the great work together with the rest of the United Stand team, says Martin. Well, I think that question progresses nicely from what I was just talking about there, where I think that basically, I think Wan-Bissaka will probably end up staying now, which means that there is only one bit of business we can do, and that one bit of business we can do is a forward. I think that's the only thing we could look at, because that's the only position that we need. We won't need a right back, so yeah, I think that's what we would do. So there we go. I've just got to send this message here. This is all sorts of stuff going on in this morning. It's busy. You see, New Year, everything's back. How does Casemiro play for us? It feels like he's too good for us, says Daniel Kirk. I think Casemiro is a fantastic player, and I think that with Casemiro, we have got a player that we're probably not accustomed to, but that's what Manchester United should have. We're Manchester United. in the words of Gary Neville, and that's the quality of player that we should have been buying for the last 10 years. Unfortunately, we've just been buying shit for a very long time. Hi Mark, hate to say it, but will Jadon Sancho be like a new signing? 1 minute, I will be back in a moment. I've just got to... welcome to the Members Club, Mark Perales. Thank you very much for that. And Mark Lee Gunner says hi. Don't know who that is. Red Smoke. Say hi back. And probably end up with Morata on loan. I presume it's probably somebody who just uses my name for everything else. I mean, what these people don't realise is that all these YouTubers, all these people that do content, you know, the massive numbers, any views you get are probably because of us. Like, the United Stand is the biggest and the best, and we've sort of revolutionised the YouTube industry in relation to football fan content. And if people go and watch other people, they're probably watching the United Stand and say, well, I wouldn't mind watching something else. But these prats don't realise that. They think they're in competition. They don't realise that we feed them. So they should be saying thank you, but they don't. Probably end up with Morata on loan, possibly. Well, look, Chris, going back to that previous comment, I do think that what we're looking at in the January transfer window now is, I'm not being smug, Em, I just know how the game works, and I know what the game was like 7 years ago. There was hardly anybody on YouTube watching football content, and then we sort of came along, revolutionised it, and now a lot of people watch YouTube football content, but people try and be bitchy and try and, you know, slag you off, and they don't realise that you're feeding them. You know, look at our views compared to theirs. There must be people trickling down to watch them after us. They should be grateful, but no, they're not. Anyway, any thoughts on De Jong rumours? Oh, Bishwesh, I have got some thoughts on the De Jong rumours. Can I just get this off my chest? Please stop asking me about De Jong. No, I don't really care if people ask me anything, but the De Jong rumours are total and utter horseshit. I cannot believe how many people are talking about them. We spoke about it with Fabrizio on Monday. Like, it came from a shit outlet that has never, that puts about 10 shit stories out a day and has been doing it for years, and it's almost like oppression. They've always been a shit outlet. They put loads of shit out there, and it's almost because they do so much of it, they've almost established themselves off putting shit content out there. There is no credibility to this at all. It is just pure, and it's not, I wouldn't even call it clickbait. It's just somebody's thought, let's do a story about De Jong and Man United. And then people have taken that story. I saw it on the Manchester Evening News feed. I thought, why are you putting that on there? You know, you moan about everything. Why are you putting that story on there? It's complete and utter horseshit. As Fabrizio said on Monday, there is no story about Frankie De Jong and Manchester United. If anything, he's even more determined to stay at Barcelona, and Barcelona are more determined to keep him now. They wanted to sell him in the summer. He's now established himself as a key player. He never wanted to leave, still doesn't want to leave, and Barcelona are more open to keeping him. The only problem Barcelona have got is they don't want to keep paying him his wages, but there's no story on Frankie De Jong apart from, it would be like me starting a story now, just, you know, and you lot believing it. I mean, I don't know, it'd be like me saying, Osimhen wants to join Man United in January and he's pushing for the move. It's completely made up. He might end up playing for Man United at some point, but it's not going to happen in January. At least Sancho will feel like an Eric Ten Hag new signing, says Yash. Yeah, we don't need that sort of talk. Could Liverpool missing out on the Champions League get us back in the race for Bellingham, says Andrew. I think in relation to Jude Bellingham, he's probably going to head off to Real Madrid. But George Carl says that Osimhen clip is going to get clipped. But that's the nature of the world, you know. There was a fake quote going around yesterday or the day before from George Mendes I couldn't believe it. I mean, but I suppose I spend so much time around you, and you're educated. The community's very good. We challenge each other. You know, it's a really, you know, good, intelligent football conversation. So we very rarely talk about the shit, because we, you know, somebody will say you're talking shit. It's never going to happen. But I do think that, you know, there was a quote from George Mendes that wasn't from George Mendes, and it had July, and this is scary, because it gets put out there by a big aggregator account, and people want to believe it, so they put it out there. And the quote from George Mendes was something along the lines of, and you may have seen it yourself, a big long quote saying that, you know, Ronaldo is, you know, as soon as we knew United were not in the Champions League, we said we wanted to leave. Cristiano Ronaldo is not the sort of player that sits and watches the Champions League on the telly. He's got to play in it. And if Man United are not in the Champions League, then Cristiano Ronaldo is bigger than Manchester United. I mean, you file that under definitely didn't happen. But yesterday, I saw it being retweeted by loads of people, and I'm like, it didn't happen. Just didn't happen. You can put July and pretend it happened 6 months ago, but it didn't. We would have spoken about it for a start. It didn't happen. George Mendes wouldn't say that, and it didn't happen. And false information is very, very tough, because, you know, it can go out there quite mainstream, especially about transfers. Good morning, Mr. Bridge. Hope you have a great day, says Gonzalo. You too. Happy New Year. Saw someone on Twitter compare Casemiro's impact in the midfield to Keane's. Thought Mark, says Sam. Idiot. Not you, Sam, but you can't compare Casemiro's impact to Roy Keane, because Roy Keane was brought in as a young player and didn't establish himself in the United side for a couple of years, and then became completely dominant, having spent a couple of years learning from the likes of Robson and Ince. Casemiro has come here at the end of his career and is completely dominant. But I think this is a thirst for comparison. Somebody always has to be compared to somebody. There's no comparison between Roy Keane and Casemiro. They're two fantastic centre defensive midfielders who played for Manchester United, but their paths and stories are very different. And also, as I said last night, the thing about Roy Keane is he captained the team, and that elevated his performance. So I'd like to see Casemiro as the captain. I don't know whether that will happen. Why are we looking at a loan when Moukoko is there for 15 million, says Charlie? Buying young, talented players is how the City and Madrid's operate. Well, look, going back to what I was trying to say, the transfer business we're going to see in January is going to be a forward. We are probably not going to get a right back now. We're certainly not going to get a midfielder or a centre back. So it's all about a forward. Now, if we were looking to bring a right back in, that was going to cost us money, because you know, whether you buy a right back or you loan a right back, you've still got to pay money. So Wan-Bissaka's actually saved us some money, which we should be adding towards whatever we're going to do up front. So, and also, you haven't got to do 2 deals now, you've just got to do 1. So Man United's job is easier now than it probably was a few weeks ago. We're not going to get a right back, so we don't need to look at a right back. It's all about the forward. Now, I think it's a great point. Fabrizio mentioned this on Monday. Keep your eye on Moukoko at Dortmund. He's not signed a new contract. He's out of contract in the summer, and he can legally talk to clubs outside the Bundesliga. We could probably do a deal for 15 to 20 million quid. And if he's somebody that Ten Hag thinks is going to be a superstar of the future, we should be doing that deal. You've also got Joao Felix, who can get in on loan. You've got to go and get one of those two players. Now, for me, what would I prefer? Well, I'm going to do a poll. You knew I would. Which one from you? But I still think Felix is the right one to go for. I mean, look, Moukoko could be very, very good. I'm not going to lie about that. He really could. We should probably be looking at getting both, as many of you were saying in the chat. But if I had to choose between the two, I'd go for Joao Felix, because I'm more precious. I mean, Moukoko would be a player for the future. The future is a new owner. So do I need a striker for the future in January when I've got a new owner coming in with a lot of money? That's the future. I need something for the now. Joao Felix can play number 10, he can play off the wing, and he can play up front. And he's a loan deal. So if I don't like it, I can send him back in the summer. So for me, I would go for now. I'm very, very wary that we need to protect our top 4 position. We need to progress in the tournaments that we're in. I want to be in a position where the future is solved in the summer with Champions League football and a trophy in the cabinet. That, for me, is my priority. And I think Joao Felix, solves more problems for us now than a Makuku does, because he can play in a number of positions and he's more experienced. So, as Shiny says, Felix, because he's versatile, and I think I would have to agree with you on that one, is the obvious choice as Flying Dutchman. And I would welcome him at Manchester United, of course. Please do smash a like on the video and subscribe, by the way, bottom right hand corner. Flynn says, getting rid of Romero was the worst decision. Man was happy to be a backup to De Gea and was ready to do a job when called upon. Yeah, well, it looks like we're going to get Jack Butland now. I think that the Lautaro Martinez would be a good signing. What do you think, says Harolder? I mean, I think I'm wasting oxygen. I mean, I keep saying this. Why do people keep talking about people that we can't sign in January? I mean, we're living in January. We're not living in the summer. I can't. Anything's possible in the summer. Anything is possible in the summer. But I mean, if you're talking to me about Lautaro Martinez now, you're wasting my oxygen. It's not going. You know, file it under not going to happen. Just not going to happen. Samuel Luckhurst has given us an update as well. Crystal Palace goalkeeper has held positive discussions with Manchester United about joining the club on loan this month. That's coming from Samuel Luckhurst. It had already been spoken about by a couple of other journalists, including Mike McGrath and Alex Crook. Oh, I just need a stretch. Oh. First early morning in weeks for me today. I had to take Seb to school. It's his first day back at school. I've not been getting up until about 9:10 for the last 2 weeks. I was up at 7:10 today, and that's not even early. One thing I did want to draw your attention to, if you like this sort of stuff, win percentage after their first 25 games at their clubs. These are all Premier League managers. 72% win percentage for Erik ten Hag, 68% for Tuchel, 56% for Pep, 56% for Arteta, 52% for Klopp, and 52% for Conte. I do not massively like stats, but I do think that that's worth mentioning from Erik ten Hag, because he took on the worst Premier League Manchester United side ever. And, you know, I can understand, look, Pep Guardiola's win percentage after 25 games was 56%, and Klopp's was 52%. Ten Hag's is 72%. I'd rather have Pep and Klopp because they've won Premier League titles. So, you know, win percentages after first 25 games, not massively bothered. Win as a trophy, win as the league. But as much as that is true, there is also a huge kicker to the other side that Klopp inherited a mess. So, of course, his win percentage is probably not going to be that high. I don't know why Pep's is so low. I mean, he inherited a team that had won the league and, you know, you've got an open checkbook. But if you look at Klopp's win percentage after 25 games, 52%. Erik ten Hag's 72%. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Klopp didn't take the job in the summer either. I think he came in like October. So he inherited a mess. You can understand that. But Ten Hag also inherited a mess because he inherited the worst ever Man United Premier League side. We lost our first 2 games of the season and we got smashed by Man City. So I think it's a fantastic achievement, and whilst there are always going to be mitigating circumstances, I think Erik ten Hag has done a fantastic job, and I think so much of it, I'm not scared to say this, I think so much of it is down to one signing. I think Casemiro has solved so many problems for us that it's probably one of our strongest areas now. From one of our weakest areas, it's probably our strongest area. The ability to dominate games. And, you know, I was watching United last night, and I know it's only Bournemouth, but I see it a lot now. Teams aren't really getting at us very much. We're hard to get at, you know, because you've got people like Casemiro in the team. We're hard to get at. I was thinking of the summer, says Harold. I mean, Lautaro Martinez in the summer is possible, but, you know, so is Osman, so is Harry Kane. If we get new owners, I think a lot of things are possible. The great thing about the community is we can agree to disagree. I disagree massively with the poll, but it's all about opinions, says Charlie. So the poll has 77% of you would rather get Joao Felix, 23% of you would rather go for Moukoko. And that's what it is all about. It's always about opinion. That's exactly what it's all about. Dougie says Casemiro is a godsend. I said it last night and I'll say it to you again now. You know, football's quite simple. We have been managed over the last 5 years by managers who get paid a lot of money to have the dream job and can't see what you and I can see. United should have invested in a CDM 5 years ago. Mourinho was here 5 years ago. All through Ollie's reign, we should have invested in a CDM, and he didn't. And these people are now, well, obviously Mourinho's got a job, but Solskjaer sat there with no job. And you sat there without a job because you spent money on things that you shouldn't have spent money on. You should have gone out and bought a CDM. Year after year after year, we've had this chat as a community. We need a CDM. We need a CDM. We need a CDM. The board, the director of football, the manager, for years, ignored it. Completely ignored it. It gets solved in Ten Hag's first summer, and suddenly we've got a 72% win percentage in the last 25 games. You know, we're into top 4. We've not been knocked out of any trophy yet. We're not conceding many goals, and we're scoring goals. I do think people will start saying, well, De Gea's been good, the centre-backs have been good, Luke Shaw's been good, Rashford's been good, Bruno's been better. But I'm telling you, you take Casemiro out of that team, I don't think we're in the top 4. I don't think we're anywhere near the top 4. I think that position has been a position you and I have been discussing for years and have been ultimately confused by why Manchester United haven't done anything about it. They do something about it and suddenly everything looks absolutely fantastic. There's still a lot of work to be done, no question about that. I think we've got huge tests coming up against Man City and Arsenal, but the efforts, the impact that Casemiro has made to this team is huge. And let's not forget, we can all praise Erik Ten Hag, but you know, and I was just about to do it, and then I'm like, you know what? He did get a bit fortuitous. He did get a bit fortuitous because he wanted Frankie de Jong, and if we got Frankie de Jong, we wouldn't have got Casemiro. And you know, it's a bit like if we had Rangnick as director of football instead of John Murta, I think we'd be in a ridiculously good position. But we can only imagine, and we can only imagine what we'd be with de Jong instead of Casemiro. But we wouldn't be in this position. And look, de Jong could have been a rip-roaring success. I mean, you can't say that this manager, Erik Ten Hag, who wanted de Jong, got it wrong. Maybe with de Jong, we'd be in exactly the same position. But I can't see how, because I think Casemiro is a completely different player to de Jong, and he's been massively impactful. But look, we're going to have to see what happens. I'm really interested to see what we're going to do. We're clearly going to take the game against Everton more serious than I thought. Charlton, we should be beating them. I expect to see more rotation. I think we will see Magaluf play probably in the Charlton game, and I think what he's going to do is he's going to build towards that Man City team, where I think he'll go with his strongest team. Varane, Martinez, Dalot, Shaw, De Gea. But I think before that game, we will see more rotation and more opportunities. And I think we'll probably go stronger against Everton on Friday than we do against Charlton on Tuesday, even though Everton's the third round of the FA Cup. And the Carabao Cup game against Charlton is a quarter-final. But I think we'll see a strong team against Everton and a more rotational team against Charlton. After 6 good months, Mikuku could be worth 70 million. I'd rather spend 70 million plus on making Felix permanent, leaving more funds for centre midfield and right back, says Charlie. There you go. Mark, to be fair, maybe Ten Hag didn't realise getting Casemiro was possible, says Flying Dutchman. Well, I think you'd always, like Radu says, you'd love to imagine de Jong and Casemiro, but there is... It doesn't matter because we've got Casemiro, and hypotheticals are a bit of a waste of time, but I think it doesn't matter whether Casemiro was available or not. I think it's very clear that Erik Ten Hag would have taken de Jong over Casemiro given the choice. But the fact is, you know, it's probably the one thing that John Murta and Richard Arnold got right, messing up the deal. Hi Mark, I'm not getting ahead of myself. Casemiro is making a lot of players such as Fred play a lot better. I'm more excited for the future now, says Graham. Thank you very much, Graham. Just trying to figure out what's going wrong with my phone here because it's doing something. I always have to check it. Any updates on Donny? This is serious business. Well, there is updates on Donny. We all saw the injury last night, and it didn't look good. Erik ten Hag has actually come out and said it didn't look good, and you know, it didn't look good. So I think he's going to be out for a while. How long he's going to be out for, I don't know. The biggest problem with Donny van der Beek is it's the and look, let's not forget, we don't know how long Anthony's going to be out for. And one thing I don't know why Ten Hag does it. I don't know why he does it, because in the modern game it doesn't matter, but he doesn't ever give an update on how long somebody's going to be out for. I mean, Delot, we never really got any update on Delot. Anthony, before the World Cup, you know, you thought he was going to be back in a week. He wasn't back for 3 weeks. He's not a manager that likes to give updates on injuries. Now, people in the chat might quite rightly say, well, it's an advantage because the opposition don't know. Mate, people know team news 24 hours before it happens these days. It's not just happening at United. It happens at Chelsea, happens at Liverpool. People know the team news 24 hours before. So there's not an advantage by not telling the world how long Anthony's going to be injured for, because Pep Guardiola will know Anthony's out way before we do if he's going to miss the Manchester derby. So I don't know why we don't get these updates, but we don't get these updates on injuries. But the issue with Donny is squad. The issue with Anthony is more serious because, like, what is the injury with Anthony? As I said, in the summer he had quite a bad injury, came back, signed for United, got injured before the World Cup, comes back, gets injured again. Hopefully it's just a knock. But you know, we don't know. He could be out for a month. He could be out for 2 days. I don't know. He could be back in training tomorrow. It's not clear, huh? Says just Kevin. Yeah, he's not clear on it. But you know, Sancho is back in training. You can't rush Sancho back when he's been away for 2 months with his own issues. So yeah. Dominic says Tillemans, Neves, Felix, Makuku, Tony, Max Aarons, Rangnick, summer deals I'd love. So there we go. I'd like to see Donny play alongside Casemiro with Eriksen in front of them, says Kieran. I personally like Donny in the more deeper role, but I mean, look, we might not see him playing for Man United again this season. Andrew Davis, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, I want Casido in the summer plus Subamendi to back up Casemiro. Can get both for less than Enzo. Well, I expect Enzo will end up signing for Chelsea soon. David's laughing about the Zoom call. I'm not going to answer the door to somebody and say, hello, I'm Mark Goldbridge, I'm doing the United stand. For one, he clearly didn't know who it was. Just being polite. Ronan says, De Gea new contract. We need to get that. We need to get that done. He was superb again last night, wasn't he? You know, it's just not a problem to solve. It's just not a problem to solve, is it? David De Gea is not a problem to solve. So don't solve it. Right, I better sort this door out. Thanks everyone for watching. Back at 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Take care. Smash a like on the video.